Let's talk NFL rules and ask some questions about some penalties. Dean Blandino,
Hard-hitting questions.
Fox Sports NFL rules analyst. Dean's going to break it all down with us, only here exclusively on Check the Mic. How you doing, Dean? Welcome back.
I'm doing good. Good to see you guys.
How many media hits are you doing during the week right now?
Depends on the week. A couple of weeks ago, if you remember, I my inner voice got the better of me, and I made some comments about the tush push. That was a very busy week. That was a very, very, very busy week.
We already
This
have
week
people
has.
we have people in the chat already begging
Oh,
not
the
to ask
Philly
about.
people are. I am public enemy number one. It's
They're-
awesome.
Our people are actually begging, do not discuss the tush push. So
I know. Yeah. If I never talk about it again, it'll be too soon.
we definitely have a question about punching people in the face on the peanut punch.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, Monday Night Football, I think the one that was most talked about, despite the Chiefs having 3x the number of penalties as the Jags, the no call on the pass interference that led to a Chiefs interception. What did you see on that play? Was that the right call?
Yeah, it's when you watch it on tape, it's pass interference based on the rule, right? The defender, you can't make contact before the ball arrives, and the language in the book talks about significantly hinders, and he just kind of takes the receiver out. But I think live, it's a tough play because it's such a bang bang play, and you watch those plays where the receiver's running the route. Who's initiating the contact? Is it the receiver? Like we saw the pick play right earlier in the game at the goal line. So you see those receivers sometimes will run that route to try to create some contact with the defender. Was the defender playing the ball? Because he has a right to playing to path the football just the same as the receiver does. So it's such a bang bang play. So I understand, and you've got multiple officials looking at that from different perspectives. So I kind of understand. I can see why the flag wasn't thrown. But when you watch it on tape, it's a foul. It's just it's one of those where the game is fast, and you would hope that the officials would get the flag down on that one, but they missed it.
The thing that confused me about it is within 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, you can chuck a receiver, right? And if you do that before the ball's in the air, isn't that legal contact?
That's legal, yeah, and that's another hard part about these plays. I mean, it's you can jam the receiver within 5 yards before the pass is thrown.
Right.
But
so
now
what made this one tough is that I think the contact starts before the ball's in the air, but it kind of lasts through the point where the ball is in the air. So because the rules, I went looking at the rule book, and it's ambiguous on this, right?
Yeah,
If the contact continues through the point where the ball's in the air, does that become pass interference?
It can, and that's the judgment call that the official has to make. Okay,
Right.
I've got legal contact within 5. Now the ball's in the air. Now I have to decide, okay, is that contact, does it raise to the level of pass interference? And when you watch, it's all bang bang. It all happens so quickly. So you have to process all of that in the moment. And you always tell the official, if you're not 100% sure, don't throw the flag. And so that's why I understand in that in real time why the flag wasn't thrown. And that's just one of those deals where it happens fast. There's a lot to process, and you want to be 100% sure before you put a flag down.
But by the way, the pick play where Kansas City did score their touchdown, there was some argument on the broadcast. Was that a yard? Was that a yard and a half?
Yeah.
What did you see on that play?
Yeah, I thought it was. You don't want to be too technical on those. You can run a legal pick play, which is exactly what Kansas City was doing. Other teams do it. They know if it's within a yard of the line of scrimmage. A lot of times, at the goal line, it's man coverage, so the picks you have a better opportunity to pick those defenders. I thought the contact might have been just beyond a yard, but again, you want it to be clear, you want it to be obvious to throw a flag there. So if it's close, then the officials are gonna let it go. But the Chiefs know, and every team knows, it's within a yards, and that's what they're trying to run that pick within, legally. And when it goes more than a yard, that's when you put the flag down.
Now we get to punching people in the face?
Yes. Why is that
Perfect.
legal?
This is our question, right? We all saw a play, another high-profile game. We got late in the game. it looks like the game's completely going to change. And then out of nowhere, Alfred Collins comes from the right with a haymaker, punches the ball loose, fumble, game swings. But before the fumble, the fist clocked the guy right in the head. And there's just been a trend now where if you punch a guy in the face, just, having an argument, you get ejected. It's a penalty. It's a big foul. If you touch the quarterback in the face, incidentally, on the way to sacking him, it's the flags everywhere. Got to protect the quarterback. But if it's on a running back or a wide receiver, it seems to be open season where we just assume, he was probably going for the football. It's fine. How come you're allowed to just hoof a guy in the head now?
And that's what your last point is exactly what it is. We see this peanut punch so much now, and it's become such a big part of what the defenses do, right? We don't tackle anymore. We try to knock the football out. And sometimes when it works, it's like in that instance, it's an incredible, momentum change. It's such a big play in the game. And again, because they just assume that the player's going for the ball. And most of the time they do hit the ball or part of the body. That one was a right cross right to the chin. and if the official sees that, it's a foul. They should call it. You can't strike an opponent, with a closed fist or even an open hand in a striking manner, which that was. But with this punch, this play, in real time, it's hard to differentiate between the body and the football. So they just assume they're punching at the football, and it's going to have to be blatant to call it. That looked pretty blatant to me. But again, this is a part of the game that the next time it's called is going to be the first time. And I think that's where we're at right now.
That's the thing, because there have been some pretty blatant ones that have gone through before. But you're saying that you think that they're missing them, as opposed to at the moment we're defaulting to the assumption that they're going for the ball.
I think they're defaulting to they're punching at the football, and it's hard to see, and you don't read in intent, but when two guys are drawn and somebody takes a shot at somebody versus trying to make a football play. But again, by rule, you can't punch somebody in the head. So I think that's where you have to kind of figure out, okay, where do we draw this line?
Yeah, and I don't think any of these are deliberately, punching a guy in the head. Just
of course.
But when it comes to quarterbacks, like, we don't give that same benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't think any of these guys sacking the quarterback and hitting him in the head are trying to hit him in the head as much as,
of course not.
He's going up to block a ball, hand comes down, clips the side of the helmet. But as soon as you see clip to the helmet, the flag comes out. Doesn't happen with other positions.
No, and the quarterback is, and look, the reality is the quarterback is a different deal, right? We protect the quarterbacks. Personally, I think we've gone too far. You watch the Saints Giants game, and the call in that game.
That was where he's lying on top of him.
That was, that's the foul. I said this before. That's the one my brother calls me. He goes, "Oh, they're calling the hit him too hard foul again." So it's just but we overprotect the quarterbacks. I get it. It's a premium position. They are in a defensive posture a lot of the time. And the running back, the theory is the running back has more opportunity to protect himself. They can stiff arm. They can do other things. So I think this is one we're going to live with. And again, I don't anticipate the league saying, "Hey, we're gonna start calling this unnecessary roughness," because most of the time they're just trying to hit the ball.
Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action. I asked you last year about intentional grounding. I feel like that always drives me nuts every Sunday, and I felt like the league has moved more toward receiver in the area to, are you actually trying to complete it? The two calls that stood out to me the last couple weeks, Russell Wilson on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. I don't know if you remember it, but it was in the red zone. Every receiver was at the front part of the goal line, and he threw it into the stands.
He just airmailed it,
But I've seen Joe Flacco miss passes like that before. So, catching strays. Joe over here in Cincinnati down the street. So that was intentional ground. I knew he was trying to throw it away, but theoretically he's throwing it over the receiver's head who's in front of him. And then the Bo Nix no call. The broadcast missed the overturn, but Bo Nix, I thought that was a clear legal throwaway. There was a receiver in the area. But it does feel like you're defaulting more toward, are you trying to complete the pass? Like, what's the spirit of the rule, and where do you think the league's landing on it right now?
Yeah, I think the way the rule is written and the way it's being officiated, and this isn't new, this has been for a while, that's kind of been the philosophy, is because grounding is again, we're protecting the quarterback. We're going to allow the quarterback to get rid of the football. The rule says a reasonable opportunity, reasonable chance to complete the pass. Well, neither one of those were really reasonable, but we always do default to, if you can put a receiver in the area, put a receiver in the area. Because what you don't want is the quarterback holding on to it too long and then they take unnecessary hits. So, with Russell, with Russell Wilson, with that play, when you have players, we always said that if you throw it over the head of a receiver in the end zone, as long as that receiver, if it's over their head, not putting it into the 30th row of the stands, you're going to let them do that. Or if you have a receiver working back toward the football, and the quarterback throws it in that direction and it bounces and they kind of are moving toward each other, you're going to let them get away with that. So I thought the Wilson one was kind of pushing that philosophy, but I agree with you that in Philly on Sunday that was a legal throwaway where the receiver was in the area.
I don't know whether this is the way these conversations ever go, but if you're sort of like, how do we maximally protect the quarterback whilst minimally screwing up the game? It feels like allowing the most generous interpretation of intentional grounding and throwaways is a way better way than doing it than flagging any incidental contact on the quarterback whatsoever. Like, that protects him just as well, and you don't have a flag every 3 seconds.
Yeah, no question. And that's always been the philosophy is lean toward letting the quarterback ground it. You talk about, in the pocket versus outside the pocket. Once they get outside the pocket, they just need to get it to the line of scrimmage. And you're always going to lean when it's close that the quarterback's outside the pocket. So that's definitely a philosophy. I don't know if I can't imagine the league's going to back off in terms of how they protect the quarterbacks. It's just, you look at, like you said, you guys mentioned Cincinnati and Joe Flacco. Why is Joe Flacco in Cincinnati, right? Because Joe Burrow's out. We don't want Joe Burrow out. We don't want Josh Allen out. We don't want Mahomes out. So it's kind of that delicate balance of protecting that position because it's so important to the game, but also you got to let the defense play defense too. So that's the part of it that I struggle with a little bit.
While we're here, Sam, you mentioned it feels like we're not getting as many late hits right out of bounds this year. I don't know. Are we seeing anything on that? It does feel like the defense, the number of times that I'm holding my breath, waiting for a flag on the bang play, it's not happening this year.
Well,
are you seeing
remember that Joseph Asai play in the AFC Championship game?
I hated that.
I've seen Joseph Asai make that play this year and not be flagged for it, let alone other people making the Joseph Asai play.
I feel like there's better judgment on those plays right now.
I think there is better judgment. I think that's something replay could get involved in if they do drop the flag and the runner's clearly in bounds. And this has been something we've talked about when I was back at the league, and I know they've emphasized this for the quarterbacks especially. If you want the protection of the sideline, get out of bounds, right? If you tiptoe up the sideline and then you try to duck out of bounds at the last second, you get hit, that's not a foul, right? You got to get out of bounds, get into the white or angle yourself out of bounds to where it's clear that you're not trying to gain yardage and kind of game it a little bit. So I think the ball carriers are doing a better job. The officials are doing a better job. The defensive players are doing a better job. And I would agree, we're not seeing those types of hits as much anymore.
The last thing I wanted to talk about, a couple of weeks ago, Saquon Barkley got fined $47,000 or whatever it is for the classic lead with the crown of your helmet thing. Running backs in particular, but I get wide receiver, ball carriers generally. Do you think it's possible to brace for contact from a certain angle and not lower the crown of your helmet? Like, if you come down with your shoulder, is your helmet not inevitably coming down? And at that point, where the contact takes place, whether it's your shoulder, the side of your helmet, the top of your helmet, is kind of down to where the defender is more than the running back. Like, he's making exactly the same instinctive brace for contact maneuver, and then it's just a case of whether the physics works in his favor or not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that's part of the issue with this rule, this use of helmet rule. I get it from a health and safety perspective, and we're trying to get those whether it's head-to-head shots or using the helmet and the head to make contact, trying to get that out of the game because of the safety element. But like you said, and that's why the officials don't throw this flag very often, especially on running backs, because the running back just in the position and where they're in, you are in more of a protective mode, right? You're not as a running back, and there have been exceptions. But the running back is instinctively trying to get low, trying to get small, trying to protect the football, trying to you know, protect themselves versus actually delivering a blow. And I think that's where this rule becomes difficult, especially on the running back and even the defenders, right? The runner's getting low. I'm breaking down, trying to make a tackle. If I stand straight up, I'm going to get run over. So
Yeah.
I've got to get low. And when I break down, the head is gonna lower. And a lot of times it's just a collision that happens because it's football versus I'm trying to use my helmet to initiate contact to hurt this guy. So I think that's part of the issue.
I think it's so hard. I mean, rugby has dealt with this as well, and they did it sort of almost a zero tolerance way, but they sort of put the onus entirely on one side, right? It's like the tackler is responsible for where this head contact takes place. And I think they rolled back a little bit recently, but there was a time where guys were getting red cards and sent off when they come in for a tackle, the ball carrier like jukes into the head contact. So he goes from like one shoulder, tries to sidestep him, they go face to face, and the guy that was tackling that got run into gets the red card because that was the way they decided, like, we can only do this one way and say, look, it's just zero tolerance. It's 100% on the tackler to figure this out. But the bottom line being, there's no clean way of doing this. Like, you're going to get incidental head contact because it's a violent game played by super athletes on both sides of the ball, and none of these people are, cyborgs who can change like at the last possible second. And it seems whatever you do is unfair to somebody.
Of course. And that's the thing. I think and the NFL does take a zero tolerance policy when it comes to defensive players hitting players that are in a defenseless posture, right? The receivers, though, it doesn't matter if the receiver goes up to catch the pass and your aiming point as a safety is the middle of the chest. And now, because gravity brings that receiver back to the ground, and now I was aiming at the chest, but now I hit him in the head, that's on you. And because it is difficult to incorporate all those different factors from an officiating perspective, it's zero tolerance in that instance because the league will live with the collateral damage of maybe, okay, it's tough on the defense, but for overall health and safety, they're gonna continue down that path.
Dean, 5 weeks into the season, any trends standing out, or what are you seeing around the league?
Well, I look, you look at the kickoff return and the kickoff return is back. I mean, that was the whole point last year. They wanted to do a 1 year, see how it went. They had the touchback at the 30. Kick returns went up, not drastically, right? It went from 22%, which was an all-time low in 23 to 33% in 24, which was better, but still not where they wanted to be. The injury data was great. It was positive. We got more returns. Field position was better. Scoring was up. So now they changed the touchback to the 35. If you kick it through the end zone, now we're seeing close to 80% of kicks returned. Field position's great. Scoring's up. So that's a big change. I mean, we haven't seen numbers like that, in terms of 78, 79, 80% kicks returned since early 2000s. So that's a positive. I think we're seeing penalties in general are up across the board, not drastically, but they're up. Illegal contact is one that jumps out. We talked about that earlier, where you can chuck the receiver up until 5 yards. We're seeing more of that. That's not a bad thing. I mean, because if officials are calling that, then defensive players know, okay, they're going to have to use their feet versus their hands, and it gives the receivers more ability to run their routes. Again, helps the passing game, and the reality is, you want a healthy passing game, you want points, because that's what people want to see for the most part.
JJ in our chat reminded me that we need to get your take on something I floated the other show. Do you have a philosophical take on the use of like super slow-mo instant replays, where it feels to me that there are some plays that it's great for, right? Like black and white issues. Did his toe touch inbounds before he went out of bounds? This is something we can slow it down frame by frame, 4K. That's great. There are other plays, though, where it feels like it basically changes your perception of what actually happened on the play. Like it alters physics, where if you run at full speed, he just caught the ball. If you slow it down and go super slow-mo, it's like, look, it's moving. Does he have control? Suddenly it's not a catch. Do you think that we've gone too far with the use of like super slow-mo, frame by frame it? Let's start really getting granular on what happened here.
Yeah, I do, and I think one of the things, and we teach replay officials, they're you want to run the video based on the play. So like you said, if I'm looking to see if the foot touched the sideline, then super slow mo is great. I can go frame by frame. Or if the ball broke the plane of the goal line,
Yeah.
I can freeze it, and we can see the nose of the ball breaking the plane. But when I'm looking at a catch no catch play, and I want to see does the ball come loose? If I go frame by frame, he's got control. I mean, I can freeze it, and he's got control where that ball could be loose. So I think depending on the play, you have to run the video and look at the video at full speed or slow motion or pretty much anywhere in between based on what you're looking for. And I do think, I think about basketball and forever, right? If I have the ball and you knock the ball out of my hands, that's out on you. And it's always been out on you. And now we look at the replay and you hit the ball, but then my pinky just happened to touch the ball last, and now we're changing that.
No,
I don't ever want to get there in football. There have been plays where you watch it live. That's why pass interference review is so tough, because live, bang bang, it all happens at the same time. It's not a foul. Then you slow it down. You go, oh, he was like 3 frames early. Is that what we want? And I don't think that's what we want.
And like offsides in soccer with VAR, like it's a rule that's simply not designed to handle that kind of precision. It was never intended to, but all of a sudden we now have the ability to take it down to a centimeter, and guys are being ruled offside because like a toe is ahead of, like, he can be functionally behind the other player, but one toe is ahead. That's it. Goal doesn't count.
Exactly. And that it was never meant for that. That's like the play clock in football, right? Do we want to get that technical on the play clock and take back big plays and say that the split second it hits 0? Maybe we get there, but I don't know if that's what we want.
Are we, when a receiver is not bobbling the ball, but like the ball's moving in his possession, is that considered possession? Because that's the one I think that shows up in super slow mo. Like, oh, the ball moved, but like he's just rotating it. What is that supposed to be considered possession when he's the ball's rotating?
Yeah, it should be, and we talk about that a lot. And the rule book talks about slight movement is not loss of control, and you've got to be able to differentiate between a ball that is actually loose to a receiver who is moving the ball within their control. I'm just repositioning my hands.
Right.
I'm just taking it from here to here, and we're always teaching that. Like, you do not be overly technical on that, because the ball it's going to move, but it's moving within his control. He is repositioning the football, doing whatever the receiver's doing with it, versus the ball actually, bobbling it, juggling it, whatever it may be.
That's the best example, I think, of like the slow-mo replays invent that. Like, if you watch these plays live, it's like it never even occurs to people that he didn't just catch the ball cleanly. And then when you run it super slow-mo zoomed in, it's like, look, it's moving all these times. And yeah, but like, it's allowed to move. I mean, nobody, very rarely does somebody 100% purely catches clean, tucks it, like the whole thing is 100% stuck to the guy's hand and there's no, extraneous movement whatsoever. That doesn't mean he didn't catch it just because you can see ball movement.
No question. And that part of replay, right? Catch no catch was never meant for replay, because the rule, right? The rule used to be having the ball long enough to perform an act common to the game. Well, that's kind of subjective, right? It's not. And when you get into replay, you want that to be objective, to the point where the NFL actually changed the rule to make it a replay rule, right? If you get both feet and then you get another step down, they wanted to make it more black and white. The problem with that, though, is that the officials on the field, those rules are written for the on-field officials to make decisions in real time. They don't have slow motion. They've got to officiate on feel. They got to officiate on what they're seeing. And you could almost make it less consistent, because a very, very small number of plays go to actual replay review, where the overwhelming majority of catch no catch plays don't go to review. And you want to make sure the officials have a rule that they could officiate consistently.
Love it, Dean. It's good to have every few weeks to just air our grievances. Here's what we're seeing. Please defend it all. Tell us what we're seeing, Dean. So always appreciate it. Fox Sports rules analyst Dean Blandino.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dean.
I almost jumped in and asked about the automatic strike zone for baseball, if he's got a take on that. because it's another one I think that changes. It changes the entire game. You've got this floating strike zone now, and pitches that were strikes for 120 years are now balls, and vice versa. It changes everything. But there's some people that disagree with you and think if we have slow motion replay, we should just get everything right. Just have everything.
But I don't think you can.
Everything right.
But that's the problem with
by the letter of the law and by the frame.
Yeah.
Just get it right.
So the problem,
rather than relying on imperfect officiating.
I generally agree with that as a principle. Like I don't like this idea because some people push back and they're like, well, mistakes are part of the fun, right? Everyone loves talking about officiating mistakes after the fact. Like it's a feature, not a bug. I don't agree with that. So I do think you should be trying to get the maximum number of calls correct that you can. What I think the problem is that when you do that by using instant replay, super slow-mo, like zoomed in stuff, all the modern tech, is that you run into specific rules that simply were never designed to deal with that level of technology. I think VAR, offside, and soccer is a great example, right? Where theoretically you're not allowed to be beyond the last defender. Now, when that was sort of invented as a rule, the idea is, you can't be further ahead than the last guy, right? But what is further ahead? Is that, the center mass? Is that most of you? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
When you're just eyeballing it, it's easy. It's like, well, he's ahead. I can see that. When you have the technology to isolate every single part of the guy's body, and now is one toe, most of you is actually behind the guy, but one toe is further ahead. Is that further ahead? Well, now it is, technically. When the rule was invented, that would never have been offside. It was ridiculous. You would even specify it. But when you're drawing it in black and white, you end up where the NFL was with the catch rule, right? And the Calvin Johnson stuff, the stuff that Dean was just talking about, where in order to try and get it black and white so that you can make it so that it functions within instant replay, you have to make it so absurd that ridiculous things end up getting called, right? Or you go back and leave it as a judgment call, but then you're in the world we are now with the juggling catch stuff where it's like it's moving. I think he's lost control. It's like, but you wouldn't if we weren't looking at instant replay. So I think the problem is this technology, as great as it is, again, it changes your perception of what's happening because you go too granular. I think that's the problem, is that these rules were simply never designed with this level of tech in mind, and I don't know that there's a solution to fix them. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?